The queens are queening and the men are not all right. Hello and welcome to Queen Things, the show where we talk about the things that matter to us queens, because if it matters to us, it matters. I'm your host, KJ Miller. I'm a founder, a lecturer, a content creator. I'm also sick. And so we are going to get in, get out, have a good time, but not a long time. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the queens. The queens are queening, okay? Taylor has a new interview talking about her songwriting. Beyoncé is all over the internet getting people very excited about her album. Lady Gaga and Doechii have a new song together for the Devil Wears Prada movie. Olivia Rodrigo has a new single, which is now officially #1. I mean, the girls are outside. You know what else? The men are not okay. The men are not okay because Meg Thee Stallion has been cheated on. And the internet is in shambles. Men need to run for cover. Everybody's mad at everybody. So the men are not all right. We also got a Summerhouse leak in which we learned Wes Wilson is even more of a bitch than we thought because he said all of 3 words during the entire time. Amanda Batula, also more of a bitch than we previously thought because she had a lot to say very heavily, very loudly to Sierra. So we do need to talk about that. And maybe some more things will come up along the way. Like I said, we're here for a good time, not a long time. Let's get into it. And before we do, yes, you will be getting a bonus episode for April. Yes, it will come on the very last day of April, as has now become my norm, but it is going to get to you very soon. So let's start off with our queens, Beyoncé and Taylor, our main queens, our prima Madonna queens. Starting with Beyoncé, she's got the internet shaking in its boots because it is very clear Act 3 is imminent. It is upon us. She has been dropping breadcrumbs to let us know, first of all, get your coins together, okay? Whatever little coins you have managed to scrape together under this fascist administration, keep them together because she is coming. Now, how do we know this? Well, first of all, as I already said at the first episode of the season, it just makes sense that we're getting Act 3 this year based on her timeline for Act 1 and Act 2. But also, she's hosting the Met Gala on May 4th. She hasn't been to the Met Gala in a decade. She keeps popping up in pictures that are very much giving Prince. She popped up in a purple dress that people are saying is very reminiscent of Prince and Purple Rain. Then for her 10-year anniversary of Lemonade, she was taking pictures for that. But was holding 3 lemons, which we are to take to mean Act 3, we think, but also potentially pointing to the 3rd track on Lemonade, which is Don't Hurt Yourself, which is a rock-inspired song with Jack White. So she's just popping up all over the place, giving us these breadcrumbs to let us know she is coming. And I spoke about this a little bit over on social, how I feel like Beyoncé does breadcrumbs versus Taylor, who does Easter eggs. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm simply saying for me and my sensibilities, the breadcrumbs feel easier to follow. Like, I don't feel like I'm having to do any complicated, intricate math in order to understand Beyoncé is coming. Now, I have seen people do more complicated, very complex sort of interpretations. I've seen a few people do that. But even if you strip all that away, just the fact that she's hosting the Met Gala, the fact that she's popping up on Instagram in purple, the fact that all along for the last 2 years, she's been giving us little rock music sort of breadcrumbs, whether it's her on a motorcycle on Vogue or her on a motorcycle in her Levi's commercial. Whether it's the Betty Black tour language that she's used in various places, whether it's the costumes that she wore during Act 2, which were very reminiscent of Tina Turner. I feel like you don't have to be able to follow too much complicated theory in order to understand she's coming and she's bringing us rock music, right? Whereas with Taylor's Easter eggs, I sometimes feel, or at least based on the people who like to interpret them, there's so much going on. And I've said before that I can't personally participate in. It just feels like you have to know so much that I don't know. So for me, the breadcrumbs feel a little bit easier to follow and makes it a little bit more fun to follow along, just because it all feels like it's going towards one singular goal or one singular conclusion, which is Beyonce's on the way. And that's what I care about. Beyonce's on the way. The music is coming. It is loading. We are getting it. I'm so excited for it. And I cannot wait. And I will just say for me, one of the things I'm most excited about is, yes, I believe this is going to be rock inspired, the same way Cowboy Carter was country inspired. But what she did with the country music genre on Cowboy Carter was she expanded it. She made it more than I think what any of us really even thought it could be, in terms of bringing in rap, bringing in opera, bringing in R&B, bringing in Riverdance, so she took, yes, the genre of country music, but she broadened it, she expanded it, and she refreshed it. That's what I'm excited about when I think about Beyonce doing rock. It's not just going to be one thing. It's going to be her take on that thing. So I feel like we're going to get old inspirations, new inspirations. We're going to get other genres mixed in the way that only Beyonce at this point really even attempts to do. No one else is attempting to do what she does when it comes to genre bending and genre mixing. And so that's what I'm excited about. Like, yes, I do believe it's going to be a rock album, but in the same way that Cowboy Carter was a country album, which is to say it's going to be even more than that. And so that is what I am most excited by. I have seen people, again, with the theory that we're finally going to get the visuals on this album. Obviously, if she gave us visuals on this album, I would be over the moon excited, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much. She did say, you are the visuals to us. And so if she is keeping with that, then fine. Fine, Beyonce, it's fine. I'm going to be listening. I'm going to buy tickets to the tour, whatever and what have you. But if she did also give us visuals, obviously I would be elated. And before I get to Taylor, I will just also mention that Beyonce's husband was also named as one of the 30 greatest living American songwriters. They had so many qualifiers in that title. This is the New York Times piece that just came out. 30 greatest living American songwriters. All right. And living and American are doing a lot of work there, because there are a lot of people not on the list. And I'm seeing comment sections like, oh, where's Adele? Okay. She's not American. Right. Or where's so-and-so? Okay. He passed. All right. So they have to be alive and they have to be American to be on this list. Jay-Z is also on the list. And one of the things he said in his interview was, Beyonce likes songwriting, but she loves producing. I think that that's probably true. She was named as one of the greatest producers of the 21st century, or whatever that, Billboard, Rolling Stones article was. But I think it gets back to something I said, which is Beyonce is a performer first. And I think it's because she's a performer first and a songwriter second, it makes sense to me that she would love producing, because the production is the performance of a song, right? The songwriting is the lyrics of the song, crafting the lyrics and the story of the song. But to me, the production is the performance of it. So it makes complete sense to me that if she had to choose, and again, this was what Jay said, he could be wrong. If she had to choose, she would choose production, because I think that is really the performance of a song. It's bringing all of the elements together to make it the polished piece that we get at the end of the day. And she is polish. She is curation. She is editing. She is masterpiece. That is what Beyonce is focused on giving to us every single time. And so it makes sense to me that production would be kind of her first love. Just wanted to throw that in as an aside. Okay, now let's get to Taylor. Taylor obviously was named as one of the 30 greatest living American songwriters. I think that makes complete sense. And so she gave us a full 30-minute interview in conjunction with being named, being given this honor. And anytime we get like a full sit down interview with Taylor, of course, I'm going to lap it up, because it doesn't happen that often. And I really did enjoy kind of getting a look behind the scenes a bit more on her songwriting process. It again validated something I said about Taylor. I think Taylor is a songwriter first and a performer second. And that's why I think Taylor's music lends itself well to being covered by other people, because she's so focused on the bones of making a really fantastic song. And then those bones can translate to other genres, other voice types. People can interpret it in different ways, and it still holds up because she's hyper focused on kind of the bones underneath. Where it's very hard to find, in my opinion, a Beyonce song that is covered in a way that I'm going to enjoy, because I feel like when Beyonce puts it out there, she's already focused on the holistic performance, making it the best version of the song it can be. So when other people try and cover it, I'm like, it was better the first way. But anyway, I feel like I did learn a fair amount about Taylor in this interview. We'll post the link. One thing I can say I learned, or maybe just was sort of confirmed, was when she was talking about Clara Bow. Now, if you know me, you know Clara Bow is one of my least favorite Taylor Swift songs of all time. Certainly on TTPD. I think it is my least favorite song on TTPD, but potentially of all time. That song, I just have never liked it. And it's so funny because I've said that before on like social or somewhere, and people are like, oh, but you like, it's such an important song because she's talking about how the industry treats women. And people would explain it to me as if it's not obvious from the very lyrics of the song. Folks, I have 2 Harvard degrees. I am very capable of listening comprehension. All right. The reason I don't like that song is because first of all, it's boring to me, and I don't like the melody of the song. I just don't like it. But that's not the point. The point is, in talking about Clara Bow, she talks about how she likes kind of taking on the perspective of the narrator or the narrator of a song that isn't her perspective, right? So making the narrator someone other than her, but then kind of like bringing it back full circle. And of course, the song ends by saying, you look like Taylor Swift, blah, blah, blah. And that is something I feel like we know she likes to do. She spoke about it as well in The Last Great American Dynasty, where there's sort of like that flip at the end where it's like, it was me. And we've heard her talk about that before too, where she likes kind of telling a story that ends with her perspective, kind of in a surprising way. And that is something she likes to do. It is something we've seen her do before. I think you could argue we see that in Father Figure as well. And so it was interesting to hear her name check Clara Bow, because at least I can know, even though I deeply dislike that song, that it's on the album because it's very meaningful to her. It's a meaningful song to her. It's a meaningful storytelling device to her. And the fact that it's so meaningful to her, I love it for her. For me, I don't like it, and I won't like it. And you won't convince me to, okay? And please don't get in the comments talking about, oh, it's because it's so important because of the industry perspective and blah, 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 how they treat young women. I get it. I just don't like it. And I think she does better versions of that. Father Figure being a great example. I think Father Figure does a better job of sort of like doing a send up of the industry and what it's like to grow up in the industry and have people trying to manipulate you, but then also like pretend to be there for you, but ultimately discard you. I think Father Figure does a far, far better job of it than Clara Bow, at least in terms of like enjoying what it sounds like for me. But trust me when I say I understand Clara Bow. Another part of that interview that I thought was very interesting, and you guys tell me what you think. She says, she's talking about how she has learned how to be okay with the music that she loves, even if the world doesn't love it. And then she specifically brings up Reputation. And she says, I always loved Reputation. It didn't matter to me how everyone else felt because I loved it. And that felt a little bit revisionist to me. Felt a little bit like revisionist history, because my recollection, and I haven't watched Miss Americana in a long time, but my recollection from Miss Americana was when she found out that Reputation didn't get any nominations for Grammys, her reaction was like, I just need to make a better record next time. And it sort of felt like in that moment, she was internalizing the criticism. People didn't love it. The Grammys didn't nominate it. And she was sort of internalizing that and saying, okay, it wasn't good enough. I'll just make a better one. And so what I can believe is that when she made it, she loved making it. When she put it out, she loved putting it out. But when she got the feedback from fans and critics about it, and the feedback was not positive, she did internalize that and only later got back to a place where she loved the album. And so it felt a little bit revisionist because I feel like what she was trying to convince us of in that interview was that she always loved it. And that is just not the vibe that I got in watching Miss Americana. I got the vibe that kind of some of that joy that she may have genuinely had in making the album was taken from her because of how it was received. And later she came back and loved it potentially once she realized how many fans really did love the music, whether the Grammys did or not. So that I wonder how you guys feel about that, if that read as potentially a little bit revisionist for you as well, or if you think, no, she probably did always love it. I don't know. But to me, it felt like maybe putting a little bit rose-colored glasses on that time period. And I think it's perfectly okay if she did have a love, not so love relationship with that album. What I will say though is I do wonder if because of that kind of full circle relationship with Reputation that I personally think she underwent, I do think she went through a period where she didn't love it as much. If going through that full circle moment with Reputation has helped her not have to do that with Showgirl, if she has been able to insulate herself from, the hatred and the critique that she got from so many people for an album that she genuinely loved while she was working on and after she put out, and hopefully has continued to love. I've said many times before, I think Showgirl is a fantastic pop album. And I've also said before, I think it is going to be remembered more fondly in the future than it was right at its inception. And I stand by that. I still, recently I listened to the whole thing. Maybe I was traveling. I forget what it was because I did shelve it for a bit. It's a very pop album. And I'm just not the person who's going to listen to upbeat pop over and over again. Like in my heart, I'm kind of a sad girl. So I like sad songs. So, I was listening to it on repeat for 6 good weeks. And then I put on Evermore and cried for most of the holidays. That's really that's really kind of where my heart lies, is in the sad songs. However, I returned to it recently. Again, I forget why. Maybe I was traveling, and start to finish holds up. It's a fantastic album. It's a fantastic pop album. I think history will remember it that way, but maybe because Taylor had the experience with Reputation, I think, of loving it and then not so much loving it based on the critique, maybe now she's able to not have to go through that relationship, and she can just love what she makes because she knows what she made and she knows why she made it and she knows it holds up. And if that's the case, I love that for her. The other piece of the interview that I found just to be kind of fun is when she was talking about this idea of autobiographical writing and whether or not it is seen as skilled or just seen as being messy. And she sort of makes the point that if you're going to say that the women are being messy for writing about our lives and writing about the things that are happening to us, then we need to apply that same standard everywhere. Are rap beefs messy, right? When people are spilling their guts and saying all this, that, and the third about the other person, is that messy or is that skill? And, and then she sort of made the point, there is a difference between songwriting and hopping on IG Live and just spilling a bunch of tea. Songwriting is a craft, but it's okay to be passionate and to put your real life into what it is you're writing. And it doesn't have to be messy. It can be skillful and beautiful. She didn't quite use those words, but I thought it was interesting because, it is something that she gets a lot of hate for, people. Who was it recently who said, was it Jack White? We spoke about this. Was it Jack White who said, I don't want to put, I think it's boring to just be autobiographical. Yes, it was Jack White who basically said, it's boring to just be autobiographical. I already lived that part of my life. Why would I want to put it in a song? And I think this was Taylor a little bit clocking that shade. And I did say at the time, yes, it was light shade. And I think this was Taylor kind of clocking that and saying like, okay, well, if that's boring or if that's messy, then like, is it boring and messy when everyone else does it or just when the girls do it? You know? So I think that's why it was a little fun to me. I was like, okay. I see Taylor clocking it. And I think she makes a good point. I think it's a good point. Like, at the end of the day, we sing about the things we know, the things we experience. We write about the things we know and experience. And like, it can't just be messy when I'm doing it. Like, if it's messy when everybody does it. Or is it skill? Those are just some of my thoughts on the interview. I do recommend watching the full 30 minutes. I thought it was insightful. I thought it was fun. And I always like when we get another glimpse into our girl. The next person I want to talk about is actually someone who has often been referred to as Tay daughter, and that's Olivia Rodrigo. You know, I really like Olivia Rodrigo. I really enjoyed her last album. I think she's incredibly talented. I think she has a beautiful voice. She recently released Drop Dead, her first single off of her upcoming album, which has a very long name. Something about you look very sad for a girl who's so pretty. Hold on. Okay, no, I butchered that. It is, you seem pretty sad for a girl so in love. So, nothing at all like what I said. You seem pretty sad for a girl so in love. Okay. And the single is called Drop Dead. It has gone to number 1, making her one of just a few artists whose first single from their first 3 albums have gone to number 1. Now, is she getting some, I wouldn't call it hate, but some light shade online because she really worked to get this song to number 1? Yes, she's getting some shade. She put out a bunch of variants. I think she dropped the price to 69 cents or something. She did a bunch of maneuvers that in this day and age, everybody is doing to try and get to number 1. Like, everybody is doing it. Okay. So I truly do not care. My question is the song good? And I'll tell you what, now this is just my opinion. I think the song is good. It just sounds like a song I've heard from her before. It doesn't sound new. It doesn't sound exciting. It does sound good because she's got a good voice and is a good songwriter, but it's not giving me much. I will say though, I oftentimes feel like lead singles give us far less than the rest of the album. I said that about Fate of Ophelia. I said that about Texas Hold'em. I'm saying it about Drop Dead. So I am not assuming that this album will be anything less than stellar based on this single. I think lead singles get chosen oftentimes with or by the record label based on what they think is going to be the most radio friendly. And I'm not judging a song based on how radio friendly it is. I'm judging it based on, is it a song I want to hear over and over again? And for me, this song is nice. It's cool. But again, it sounds like something I've heard from her. Yep. I just listened to it again and I stand by. Sometimes I'm like, oh, is it just because the first couple times I heard it, it hadn't grown on me? No, I stand by it. I think it is a good little radio friendly pop song that is not doing that much for me. However, I remain excited for the album. You know, I like how angsty Olivia Rodrigo is. She's going to give you a good angsty ballad, and I like that. That's what I'm looking forward to. Oh, and then the final thing I wanted to say as we round out the conversation about queens queening is Lady Gaga and Doechii have a song called Runway for the Devil Wears Prada soundtrack. Is it a good song? You know what? I'm going to say it is a good soundtrack song. I can very much picture that song playing while the movie is doing some sort of montage or even while the movie is doing a runway show. It sounds perfect for that. Is it a song that I can envision myself pressing play on to just listen and hum along to in my house? No. It is not, but it doesn't sound like it was designed for that anyway. And the video is immaculate. They both look fantastic. It's very visually stunning. And there's just like a lot going on visually, your eyes are like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. Oh, the fashion is fantastic. So I think to me, it feels like it does what it's supposed to do for the movie. I can very much see it being in the movie. But is it a good song that I want to press play on just here in my home? No, it's not. And I think that's okay. Okay, I just listened again and I will revise my statement slightly. It is, I think it is a good song, but again, for the medium, it's for. But I was shaking. I was shaking my shoulders. I was bopping. And I like the two of them together. It kind of loses steam for me in the chorus. I feel like it starts strong and then in the chorus loses a little bit of steam. But I will say, again, I think it's good for the medium. It's for. And if I heard it, if I were at a club, and y'all know I don't go to the club, but if for some reason I woke up and found myself in a club and this song were on, I would fist bump and I would do my little dance and I would bob my little head and it would be fun for that. And that concludes queens who are queening. Let's get to the mess. Let's get to the men. Let's get to Klay Thompson. When I found out that he had cheated on Megan Thee Stallion, oh, the anger I felt. I really was rooting for this man. I will say, and I don't mean to sound like rude about this in any way. I will say my guard was up because they were so lovey-dovey on social media. And I have just never not known that to be a bit of a red flag. Like, I love my husband more than anyone in the world, save for my child. And it just would never occur to me to be on social media every day posting about my undying love for him, which, and I'm only one data point, but it just feels like sometimes when it has to be said so often and so publicly, it's sort of like, why? But the reason why, at least what I told myself, was for Meg, maybe this isn't a red flag because she has been so traumatized and so hurt and has lost pretty much every person in her life she ever loved. Her mother, her grandmother, her best friend, like she's alone in this world. So maybe for her, it makes sense that when she finally finds the love of her life, it is this out loud. And also, she lives life out loud. She's, that's her personality. So I held on to hope that this was not a red flag, even though historically speaking, I have seen it be a red flag when people are over the top in their affection on social media. Well, turns out my instinct was right. It was a red flag because this man was full of shit. He wanted to be on social, showing them buying the house and buying her a car and buying her this, that, and the third and going to this thing with her and opening the doors for her. He wanted all of that attention because he's the type of person who feels like, oh, if other people see me doing all this, then that's good for me. And who cares if behind closed doors, I'm not actually living the life that I am putting on social media. See, because for Meg, this wasn't just a front. This wasn't her just showcasing all the ways she loves her man so that people would believe it. That's actually what she was doing in private. So her private life and her public life matched. For him, public was a front. In private, he was being a dog. And it just always feels like, it feels like that's how it goes. Like, I'm so mad for her. I'm so heartbroken for her because we do know how much she's been through. We do know how traumatized she's been. We heard her say in her documentary, without her mom, she feels like, is she doing the right thing? And she doesn't have that person who she can ask. And she's made so many mistakes and done so many things that she feels like if she had her mom with her, who of course was her best friend, she wouldn't have done. and, has led from a place of insecurity. And so to know that she truly felt like she had found, I mean, they bought a home together. She had found the one, and to have that taken away from her in such a terrible way, like for him to be cheating on her and betraying her is just, it breaks my heart. And of course, I was heartbroken to see that not only did that happen, but then shortly thereafter, she announced she's ending her run on Broadway early. She was supposed to have her final show May 17th, I believe. And now her final show is going to be May 1st. And I hate that. I have said I grew up in the age of the Beyoncés and the Taylors who do it no matter what. I can do it with a broken heart. What I will say, though, is both Beyoncé and Taylor, as we talk about in my last bonus episode, have such strong family support systems around them that when Jay-Z cheated on Beyoncé, she had Solange, she had Kelly, she had her mom, she had her, her cousin who's kind of like a sister to her. She had such a strong family support system. Taylor, when she was going through her heartbreak during Eras Tour, she had, again, her mom, her dad, her brother. She had a real familial support system. But what does Meg have? And so to go through something like this with the person who you thought was going to be your forever person, and to have no one really there in your corner from a family standpoint to fall back on, I think that's a different level of pain and a different type of pain. So while I wish she could continue on and see her contract through, because I imagine there's real financial repercussions to backing out of a Broadway contract like this several weeks early. I do also feel like I can understand, like, she's in a place where just mentally, if she didn't step away, it would fall apart around her, But I hate it so much. I am so mad at this man. I do wish him the worst. And that's all I'll say about him. And finally, once again, we return to the Summerhouse madness because we did get the audio leaks plural this week from the reunion. And I'm not going to play them here. You can find them. You can listen to them. The gist of them is that Amanda Batula is just not at all sorry. As far as I can tell, not at all sorry. Spends the entire time being incredibly combative, yelling back and forth at Sierra, throwing Sierra's words in her face. It's like each leak was worse than the last leak. I said this on social, I'm happy that she's going down that path, because my worry was she was going to attempt to garner sympathy. I can't imagine anyone would walk away from any of those clips and think that she was deserving of any kind of sympathy. She seems like she just lacks any kind of empathy for Sierra, doesn't care at all about the friendship that they had, and is not being contrite at all. She's honestly seems like a worse person than we all thought coming into this. And we all thought she was a terrible person because she did it in the first place. And now it feels like she's even worse than we thought. So that is an interesting choice on her part. I mean, but it's a choice. You made this bed. Now you get to lie in it. I'll say I'm happy about the leaks because, as other people have pointed out, who knows if Bravo would have given us all of this? Who knows if they would have given her a softer edit? They certainly have incentive to do so because she's a main character on their upcoming show in the city. So it would make sense if they wanted to try and shield her from the worst of it and give her a softer edit. I don't know how they could edit around this and somehow make it softer based on what I heard, but now there's no choice. They have no choice. They know the entire audience has heard what she actually thinks and how she actually feels. And as terrible as it is, I'm happy that we know that now. Like, no one is unclear about how truly terrible this person is. And as for West, oh my God, he said basically nothing. The fact that he said basically nothing. At one point, Mia referred to Amanda as one of West's side bitches. West had nothing to say about that. Didn't try to clean it up. Didn't say, no, that's not what she is. This is someone I really, truly, deeply care about. Nope. Didn't say not a word. Ugh. Just terrible. The fact that this is why you were willing to blow up your friendship and leave your marriage, which seemed like it was ending on an amicable note, leave it in this way, in these shambles. For him, he won't even correct somebody when they refer to you as his side bitch. Oh, girl. Wow. As I said last week, the L's keep on L'ing. My God. Didn't think it could get worse. It is much worse. Much worse. Whew, and that is all we have time for today, honey. I need to go take some Sudafed, eat these cough drops, and go to sleep. I'm very tired. Next week, I'll be better. I promise I'll be better, longer, harder, faster, stronger, all of the things. But right now, I'm going to bed. And with that, I'll see you next week.